नमस्कार बच्चों, once again I feel very happy to see you all in the virtual class। जैसे कि हम लास्ट क्लास में देखें मेटल्स एंड नॉन मेटल्स के बारे में काफ़ी कुछ आपको सीखने को मौका मिला होगा और उस चैप्टर से कई सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स आपको क्लियर हो चुका होगा। जैसे आप स्कूल वापस जाएंगे तो बहुत सारे क्लैरिटी के साथ आप स्कूल जाएंगे, तो हम उम्मीद करते हैं कि जो भी वर्चुअल क्लास के थ्रू से आपको एजुकेशन मिल रहा है तो वो सारे अच्छे तरह से आपको समझ में आता होगा। टुडे वी आर गोइंग टू लर्न अ न्यू चैप्टर फ्रॉम योर क्लास। इस चैप्टर से आपको बहुत सारे कॉन्सेप्ट्स क्लियर होगा जो बेसिकली हम आमतौर पर घर में यूज करते हैं। इस चैप्टर को स्टार्ट करने से पहले हम कुछ हाउस होल्ड एक्टिविटीज के बारे में हम जरूर जानना होगा और you are very familiar with the activities which we are going to discuss now। आप जैसे सड़क पर जाते ही बहुत सारे गाड़ियां आप देखते होंगे, है ना? तो वो गाड़ियां जो चल रही है कौन से फ्यूल यूज कर रहे हैं? सिमिलरली फॉर कुकिंग फूड, आपके घर में कौन से फ्यूल यूज कर रहे हैं कुकिंग के लिए? इन ऑर्डर टू कुक फूड some fuels are being used in your home। Which fuel is used? Whether wood is used, LPG is used, coal, charcoal। in those days जो wood है, wood से ही खाना बनता था। As the technology advanced, we jumped from wood to kerosene stove। You might have seen, you can see the picture which shows kerosene stove and various generations where different types of fuels have been used। In the modern era, we discarded wood as its availability is also almost negligible। Then later people migrated from wood to kerosene, and according to our convenience we further moved on to another type of fuel which was preferred, and we are very comfortable and conveniently we are using it still today। What is that fuel? You may be having a cylinder at your home। That fuel is called LPG। LPG के मतलब liquefied petroleum gas। तो ये जो फ्यूल होता है उससे हमको क्या मिलता है? When the fuel is burnt, we get heat, and this heat energy is used for cooking food। Yes students, today we are going to see more about fuels and concepts related to fuels। चलिए हम देखते हैं इस फ्यूल में और क्या चीज हमको देखना है आगे। Dear children, in the last class we have discussed about the reaction of metals with oxygen। In that I referred an activity which you had already performed in class 7th। What is that activity? Yes, burning of magnesium ribbon। When the magnesium ribbon is burnt in air, we got an ash, and we also seen that the ash which we have got in 7th standard behave as a base। Dear children, in order to understand this chapter, I have some stuff for you। I hope and I believe these stuffs what I have brought will help you to understand the concepts well। Now, in order to understand the fuels, you are very much familiar with the candle। As the candle is lighted, it gives flame। What happens with the other substances which when burned? Let us do an activity which will help you to understand how the different types of fuels behave। Let us go into the activity। Now children, if I light a candle, as you can see, it gives off, it burns and gives a flame, as you can see in the video। Now this is charcoal, this is called charcoal, and this charcoal is a substance obtained when wood is burned। जब हम लकड़ी को जला देते हैं उसके बाद जो बचता है उस मटेरियल को हम चारकोल कहेंगे। जब ये चारकोल को हम हीट करते हैं तो क्या होता है, जस्ट हम देखेंगे अभी। हम इसे कोयला कहते हैं। नाउ आई ट्राई टू बर्न दिस, सो इंस्टेड ऑफ टेकिंग दिस अ लार्ज size, I just break it down into small piece so that you can see how it behaves. Now this charcoal is a fuel. Charcoal is a fuel which when burnt, as you can see, smoke is produced. Can you able to see this? When I burn charcoal, it gives off smoke. आप अच्छी तरह से देख सकते हैं। And also it does not give any flame. आप जैसे इसको देख सकते हैं, इसमें से कोई फ्लेम नहीं मिल रहा है हमको। बोथ आर फ्यूल्स, कैंडल इज वन फ्यूल एंड चारकोल इज अनदर फ्यूल, बट व्हेन बोथ आर बर्न you can see one is burning with a flame and a charcoal is burning, but it does not give off any flame, just smoke is coming out. So from this we can say that all the fuels what we see around us will not give flame. Some fuels may give flame and some fuels do not give flame. You should know why some fuels gives off flame and why some fuels do not give flame. Now you can see the light. It is burning, but it does not give off any flame, but it burns. Now similarly, the experiment what we have seen in the 7th standard, once again I am repeating you so that you could understand the concept well. Now I have got a stuff, as I told you, this is magnesium ribbon. It just appears like a ribbon, that's why it is called a magnesium ribbon. It is actually a magnesium metal. Just you have to remove like this. In the school lab you can find this. Now we are not going to use all the magnesium ribbons, so we can take out a piece of magnesium ribbon. This is called a pair of tongs. इसके मदद से हम क्या करेंगे, इस मैग्नीशियम रिबन को जस्ट थोड़ा सा स्ट्रेट करेंगे एंड वी होल्ड विद द हेल्प ऑफ दिस टोंग। जब इसे हम पकड़ेंगे और इसको जलाने का कोशिश करेंगे, इट विल बर्न बट इट टेक्स टाइम। नाउ एज आई टच हियर, it becomes hot because it is a good conductor of heat. That is why when I heat at the tip, the heat is transferred up to this end by the process of conduction. So care must be taken when you burn any metal. When you handle with metals, proper care must be taken, as metals are good conductors of heat, which we have already learnt in the previous episode, metals and non-metals. Now magnesium ribbon takes time because when the magnesium ribbon is kept outside, it reacted with the oxygen present in the atmosphere and a thin layer of magnesium oxide is formed over the surface of magnesium ribbon. In order to burn magnesium, generally what we need to do is, with the help of sandpaper, we have to scratch it, we have to rub it, so that the oxide layer which has formed over the surface of magnesium ribbon will get removed. Then it will help magnesium ribbon to catch fire easily. Take a sandpaper and rub it as I am doing, so that the experiment can be performed smoothly. So the rubbing process is over. Now we will try whether it burns or not. Now magnesium ribbon is just going to burn. A dazzling flame you could see, yes or no? Now after burning, you can see the ash. What we have discussed in the previous episode, we were talking about the ash. When the magnesium ribbon is burnt, we will get an ash. This is the ash which we were talking about. The ash is magnesium oxide. As you can see, this is the magnesium oxide which will behave as a base when it is dissolved in water. From the activity, we found that both the charcoal and the candle burns in air, but the charcoal does not produce any flame, whereas candle produced flame. Children, Combustion is a chemical process in which any substance reacts with oxygen and gives off heat. And the substance is known as combustible substance. And this combustible substance is also termed as a fuel. This fuel may be solid like wood, charcoal, coal, may be liquid like kerosene, petrol, and it may be gas like CNG. So you can find more fuels and a list as a homework. Just now we have taken example of a candle and magnesium ribbon, and also we have taken charcoal, how these fuels burn in air. So a chemical reaction had taken place. जब कोई भी चीज ऑक्सीजन के साथ में रिएक्ट करके हीट प्रोड्यूस करता है तो वैसे वाले रिएक्शन को हम कहेंगे कंबस्शन रिएक्शन. सम कंबस्शन रिएक्शन gives flame and some combustion reaction gives just heat and glows. We will discuss many things about the combustion, and the substance which undergoes such a chemical change with oxygen are called combustible substance. Dear students, some of the substances in your home, you just try at home whether the substances undergo combustion or not. The primary condition for an object to undergo combustion is they must react with the oxygen and should produce heat. Some substances may produce heat alone, but there are substances which produce heat. Along with heat, light is also produced. Some substances give flame also. And all the substances which undergo this combustion process is known as combustible substance. Can you give some example? So in order to find out the household articles which are combustible and which are non-combustible, we just do an activity along with me. Once the video gets over, you can practice at home, you can do it yourself, and you can understand whether the substance is a combustible one or non-combustible. Whatever the activities I am telling you to perform at home, you should not do it alone. It should be done under the supervision of your parents, because you are dealing with the combustion which produces lot of heat and light, which can cause injury to you. Dear parents, as you may be watching this video, please proper care must be taken while your ward is performing this activity. So let us go into the activity and see, and we will try to identify whether the substance is combustible substance or non-combustible substance. Now dear children, we will find out various articles present in our home, whether these articles are combustible or non-combustible, because you should know whether the substance available in the home is combustible or non-combustible, which will help you to be taken care of with those materials. तो घर के जितने भी चीज अवेलेबल है तो वो कंबस्टेबल है या नहीं है, तो आपको ये पता होना चाहिए. चलिए हम ट्राई करते हैं. तो कुछ स्टेप्स आपके लिए लाया हूं, तो जिससे वी विल ट्राई टू आइडेंटिफाई वेदर द सब्सटेंस इज कंबस्टेबल और नॉन कंबस्टेबल. अब हम देखेंगे कि कैंडल यहाँ पे जला हुआ है, तो इस जला कैंडल से ऑक्सीजन का सप्लाई हमको मिल जाएगा. इस ऑक्सीजन के सप्लाई से कौन कौन से सब्सटेंस जो है कंबस्टेबल है और कौन से वाले नॉन कंबस्टेबल है हम देखेंगे. तो सबसे पहले हम देखेंगे पेपर. वी टेक एन एग्जांपल ऑफ पेपर, एंड बिफोर डूइंग दैट लुक एट द कॉलम. तो इसी तरह के आप भी अपने घर के जो आर्टिकल्स है उसको निकालते हुए और ऐसे एक कॉलम बना लीजिए, और एक साइड में आपको आर्टिकल का नाम होना चाहिए, उसके बाद कंबस्टेबल एंड नॉन कंबस्टेबल अलग अलग कॉलम होना चाहिए. अगर कंबस्टेबल है तो उसमें टिक करिए, जो नॉन कंबस्टेबल है तो नॉन कंबस्टेबल में टिक करिए. तो वैसे ही आपके घर में जितने भी आर्टिकल्स है, फाइंड देम whether they are combustible or non combustible. तो चलिए हम देखते हैं. सबसे पहले पेपर को हमने लिए हैं, तो पेपर जलता है कि नहीं. अगर आप देख सकते हैं स्क्रीन में कि पेपर जो है अच्छी तरह जल रही है, तो इसके मतलब है कि पेपर जो अवेलेबल है आपके घर में, इट इज कंबस्टेबल. सो इससे आपको क्या मालूम होता है? पेपर इज कंबस्टेबल सब्सटेंस. सो प्रॉपर प्रॉपर केयर मस्ट बी टेकन। कॉपी किताब अगर आप जो पढ़ते हैं, पढ़ाई करते समय किचन की ओर अगर जाते हैं तो ये पेपर आपके वहां पे लेके नहीं जाना है, जहां पर फायर है वहां पर नहीं ले जाना है। इट कैन catch fire as paper is a combustible substance, dear students. So proper care must be taken while you are dealing with the papers when you are near to the fire. So paper is a combustible substance, so we can mark paper as combustible substance. Now we take another substance, stone. I have taken stone. तो हम स्टोन को लेके जलाने का कोशिश करते हैं, तो यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप, यहाँ कैंडल के सामने रखा हुआ है, बट द स्टोन डज नॉट कैच फायर। तो यहाँ पे फायर नहीं हो रहा है, ऑक्सीजन के साथ तो कंबाइन हो रहा है पर जल नहीं रहा है। सो विच शोज दैट स्टोन इज अ नॉन कंबस्टेबल सब्सटेंस। सो इन द चार्ट व्हाट यू हैव प्रिपेयर्ड, you can mark stone as non-combustible substance. So stone is not a combustible substance, as you can see. Now we test for another substance. We take another substance, cotton. As you may be having cotton at your home, as we have already learned in the natural fibers and synthetic fibers. Natural fiber, one of the example what we have taken, cotton. So cotton clothes are there. So in your home you may be using cotton clothes. Let us just check it out whether cotton is a combustible or non-combustible. As you can see, when I bring here, immediately it catches fire, as you can see in the screen. Immediately the cotton catches fire, which shows that cotton is a combustible substance. So care must be taken. As cotton is combustible substance, you can mark cotton as combustible substance. Now we will see, we take another material, a metal screw. The screw is made of iron, as you can see it is made of iron, and when I try to burn this, even though it is kept for 30 seconds of time, neither it burns nor it produces any kind of flame or light is there. You can see iron is a non-combustible substance. So in the diagram, in the chart, you can mention that iron is a non-combustible substance. Now we check for another article, matchstick. We will see, as you all are familiar that matchstick burns. So though it burns, we just check it out whether it is a combustible or non-combustible. As it is brought near the candle flame, you can see it starts burning. It also gives flame. It also gives flame. That means matchstick is made of wood, and the wood is a combustible substance. So whatever the furnitures, wooden furnitures available in your home, all are combustible substance. So care must be taken when you are dealing with furniture which is made of wood. So we can mark wood or wooden furnitures under combustible substance. Now we move on to another object. We just try. Now we will see polythene bags. As you are very much familiar with the polythene, we have already discussed with the polythenes various issues about the polythene. Under which category polythene is classified? As we have already studied, it is classified under plastic. So well-known example of plastic is polythene bag. So when I try to burn polythene, as you can see, it burns. As polythene should not be burnt. Why? Why should polythene not be burnt? In the previous episode, we have already seen that it releases poisonous gas which may cause respiratory problems. So I just brought some of the articles available with me just to show that what is combustible and what is non-combustible substance. You can add in the table many more articles available in the home to check for its combustion nature or non-combustion. Moving forward, we will see what are the conditions required for a fuel to burn. So in order to prove this, we will do another activity which will help you to understand how a fuel burns. Children, for an object to undergo combustion, the necessary thing required is oxygen. As I told you earlier, air is supplied. when something is burnt, we are supplying air. What do you mean by air? We know that plenty of oxygen is present in the atmosphere. So when we are supplying air, that means we are supplying oxygen, we are providing oxygen. So for an object to undergo combustion, the necessary thing required is oxygen. Without oxygen, none of the fuel can burn. So in order to prove this, let us do an activity, and from this activity you will be very much cleared that the combustion takes place with the help of oxygen. Let us do the activity. Some of the articles which are required for doing this experiment are easily available in your home. You can easily find it in your home or in the surrounding. What are those materials? We need a cylinder, transparent cylinder. So for you, I have brought this. So a plastic, the PET bottles can be cut. As we have already talked about reuse of plastic materials, here I have brought for you one of the reuse. So it is reused, it was just lying down and I just used it for this purpose, doing activity. So we can use this recycled plastic as a cylinder. So chimney, we will use this as a chimney. And secondly, I have a matchstick which you will find it easy, and a pair of stick you can take, and a candle. So this much will do the job. So in order to do the activity, just you see, you can follow it, and you can do at home also, but under the supervision of your parents. Now after keeping this, I just light a candle. After lighting it, now you can see the candle is burning freely. The candle is burning freely because it gets a sufficient amount of oxygen so that without producing any smoke, it burns. It gives a clean flame. Now, what I am going to do is, just I cover the burning candle with this chimney. Look at this. When I cover this with a chimney, even now the candle is burning with a clean flame. It does not produce any smoke. Why? Because the oxygen is supplied from the bottom. As we know that hot air rises up. As the hot air rises up, the cold air from the bottom enters into the chimney. As it goes, as we know that air contains oxygen. So proper amount of oxygen is supplied to the candle. As a result of this, the candle burns smoothly without any hindrance. Now, we see the second case. In order to do the second step, we just remove the stick from the bottom. Now we will see what happens to the candle. Observe very carefully and minutely. So this will help you some understanding level. Now I am going to remove the sticks, and now you can see the candle is burning by producing some sort of smoke. Here you can see that the candle is burning surely, but it produces smoke. Why it produces smoke? The supply of oxygen from the bottom is totally restricted. तो नीचे से जो ऑक्सीजन की सप्लाई है, एयर जो पहले एंटर हो रहा था, तो वो एयर जो है यहाँ पे नहीं है. सो whatever the fuel burns, तो hot air जो है वो गर्म हो जाता है, and the hot air rises up in the air. तो hot air ऊपर चले जाता है, तो ऑक्सीजन नीचे से उसको पूरी तरह से नहीं मिल पा रहा है, जिसके कारण insufficient supply of oxygen के कारण ये जो कैंडल है वो स्मोकी फ्लेम दे रहा है. नाउ वी गो टू द थर्ड स्टेप वेयर वी विल फाइंड सम इंटरेस्टिंग फिनोमेना हियर. नाउ व्हाट आई एम गोइंग टू डू इज I am going to cover the chimney with this plate. When I cover the chimney with this plate, let us see what happens, right? As soon as I covered the chimney with lid, what happened? It burned for some time and finally flickers off. It goes off. Why? Because the fuel does not get sufficient oxygen for combustion process. So here combustion process is restricted and no more combustion will take place because supply of oxygen is restricted as we have covered the chimney with a plate. So no supply of oxygen. So from this activity you must be clear that for an object to burn यानी combustion होने के लिए ऑक्सीजन का जरूरत है, एयर का जरूरत है. As long as oxygen is supplied to a fuel, the object will burn or combustion will take place. In absence of air, combustion will not take place. So children, we have seen that different objects catch fire at a different rate. Some of the objects immediately catches fire and some of the objects take little time to burn. So why it is happening so? It is because each and every article requires a minimum temperature at which it undergo combustion process. Therefore, the minimum temperature at which a substance undergo combustion process or burns is known as ignition temperature. Below this temperature, any objects which get oxygen but the temperature is below its ignition temperature, then the object will not burn. That means objects will start undergo combustion only when the temperature of the object crosses or goes beyond its ignition temperature. This ignition temperature is different for different objects. The objects which have low ignition temperature will catch fire immediately, and the objects which have more ignition temperature, it will take much time to burn because it needs more heat to reach up to the ignition temperature so that it can catch fire. On the oil tanker, you must be seen highly inflammable, a word written highly inflammable. What is the meaning of highly inflammable? There are certain substances which have very low ignition temperature. Kerosene, petrol, all are inflammable substances. That means these substances have very low ignition temperature. Likewise, you can list some other, you can find some other inflammable substances as a homework. Now we move on to, just now we have learned what is ignition temperature. As this ignition temperature is different for different objects. Now let us do an activity and try to understand how the ignition temperature differs from article to article. So in order to find this, we will do a small activity which will help you to understand what is the role of ignition temperature for an object to burn or for an object to undergo combustion process. As we know that wood, cotton, matchstick, all are combustible substance. Is the combustion process for all these objects are same? No. Some of the objects catch fire easily, readily, and some of the objects do not catch fire. It has to be burned for a long time. Dear children, as we have already seen that when the cotton is brought near the flame, it immediately catches fire. That means its ignition temperature is very, very low. Now we will try to identify, now we will see what happens to the matchstick. When matchstick is brought, now it takes little more time. Can you compare the ignition temperature between the cotton and the matchstick? Yes, the ignition temperature of cotton is lesser than the ignition temperature of matchstick. Now we will see a splinter. Can you see the splinter? Splinter के मतलब होता है एक लकड़ी का छोटा सा एक टुकड़ा जिसे हम स्प्लिंटर कहते हैं. ये स्प्लिंटर को जब हम सामने लाते हैं तो यहाँ पे देख सकते हैं आप स्मोक और ये बर्न होता है, but it takes time. And we also know that kerosene is also a fuel. The automobiles and all, kerosene is used. Kerosene एक fuel है. Likewise, petrol is also a fuel. Kerosene is one of the fuel which has very less ignition temperature. That means the ignition temperature of kerosene is very low. Now, as you have seen, the splinter takes time to burn. Now, what I'll do is, here you will find the kerosene, right? When I soak this splinter, if I bring near the flame, you will find that it catches fire immediately. Can you tell why splinter soaked in kerosene catched fire very rapidly? What could be the reason? The reason is the ignition temperature of kerosene is much lower than the splinter, than wood. So that is why when it is soaked in kerosene, kerosene has lower ignition temperature. So initially the kerosene catches fire or undergo combustion, due to which large amount of heat is produced. That heat is sufficient for the splinter to undergo combustion process. That is why usually wood is burnt initially by providing some materials, some fuels which have low ignition temperature. As you must have seen, while burning wood, people used to pour some kerosene or petrol. Why they do like this? The reason is they may not be knowing why they are doing, but being a student of class 8, you are in a position to explain others that adding kerosene or petrol lowers the ignition temperature. Due to low ignition temperature, it initially catches fire, which provides further heat and further the wood starts combustion. From this activity, I believe that you understood what is the combustion, what are the necessary things required for combustion process, and what is the ignition temperature, and I believe that you also understood the role of ignition temperature for combustion process. Based on today's learning, I would like to give home assignments which you can practice at home. Dear children, so that's all for today. In the next episode, we will be seeing much interesting concepts. Take good care of yourself. Till then, it's bye.